Kelcey Carlson ran the marathon and remains in Boston tonight.
So many of you have called today asking about WRAL's Kelcey Carlson. Kelcey is fine.
The marathon is part of the fabric of this community, and if you talk to the locals, they will tell you that that is not going to change.
It's a tough city. I think people will be coming back.
They know the city and the spirit here.
All of those we spoke with today say their hearts go out to those who were hurt and, of course, all their families.
Finish line area is just a couple blocks up that way. This is as close as we can get right now. I know from listening to local coverage that they have confirmed that 2 people are dead, many more, at least 23 others are injured. Those folks were treated at a medical tent at the finish line. And I've talked to a number of people who witnessed these explosions. One former co-worker of mine, Emily Carlucci, was right there at the finish line. I saw her as I was finishing the race and just spoke with her. And she said it was so noisy down there, all these noisemakers, and all of a sudden there were these 2 explosions and everything went silent. She is rattled, to say the least. Everybody went running, and from what we can tell so far, there were 2 other explosive devices that were found in the area. We know the FBI is on the scene, still trying to figure out what exactly happened here.
WRAL's Kelcey Carlson ran in the marathon today and is still in Boston tonight. Kelcey, many people still trying to make sense of this tragedy.
Oh, certainly. This is not something that you would expect to happen at the Boston Marathon. It is a family-friendly event. There were bomb-sniffing dogs at the start and the finish line. So I think a lot of people who are here are still trying to comprehend what happened. This is a holiday. It's Patriots Day. It is a fun, family-friendly event. Again, a lot of people have the day off work and they come out to watch the runners come in. I've had a chance to talk to a number of runners and spectators tonight, and most, if not all of them, have said how incredible the volunteers were at the finish line when this happened, and the medical staff as well. This is an incredibly organized event. And so, people are still just trying to make sense of it all. I had a chance to speak with an emergency room doctor just a short time ago, and he was right there at the scene of the blast. He was waiting for his wife to come in, and he turned around and heard the noise and responded.
And Kelcey, you finished before the explosions. Can you tell us how you learned about what had happened there at the finish line?
My plan was to finish the race and get to the airport as quickly as possible. I was trying to get home tonight. I wanted to get home to see my kids before they went to bed. And I had gotten to the airport. I was in the security line, and I saw it all flash on the screens at a nearby restaurant. And the girl behind me in security said she had heard the blast and was just leaving the area. And that's when I learned about it. I called in and called into the station and watched the news reports, and then came back down to this area.
Our own Kelcey Carlson is about a block away. She joins us live about the chaotic scene. Kelcey, I know you finished the race well before the blasts yesterday. Bring us up to date on the situation there this morning.
Good morning, Bill and Michelle. Yes, I'm about a block away from the finish line where these explosions went off. Let me just show you behind me here. You can see the street is blocked off. Boylston is just up the street. You can see the flags and the bleachers in the finish line area where this happened. Over here, Stephanie's restaurant. You can see food still on the table. Coats are hanging on the chairs. There's a child's coat hanging on a railing there. That shows that people were sitting there enjoying the afternoon and simply got up and ran. It was a chaotic scene, to say the least, here when this happened yesterday afternoon. When I was at the airport yesterday, somebody overheard me talking to the station, and they heard that I was going to be sent back here, and a woman offered to give me clothes from her luggage. When I got out here last night, there was a man who came down from his apartment, and he wanted to help runners who were stranded and bring them into his apartment to give them some food and some shelter. He ultimately brought a coat out to me. And I just want to thank, our folks, our viewers back in North Carolina. So many people emailed me and wanted to know if I was okay. It has been such a chaotic 24 hours. It was a beautiful day yesterday. It was perfect for a marathon. It was a wonderful race. And then all of this happened. And I think this morning is when it truly hit me. Just what happened out here. I traveled by myself this year, but I typically have my family with me, and they wait for me at the finish line to finish, and that's what you see from the start of the race to the end of the race, just families the entire way.
I thought the same thing, Kelcey. I know last year, I think Dave and the kids were up there with you, and you've certainly got a feel for all of those people affected by this.
Certainly, I had the opportunity to get a hold of all the people that I knew who were in Boston, and a few of the runners from North Carolina were just finishing up the race, were in the post-race area, heard the explosions and saw the panic and just started to run. In talking to them last night, they couldn't tell me their story without sort of getting broken up themselves. This is a very open environment. This is a very festive day. It's Patriots Day in Boston. This is the kind of thing that makes you feel like you can't go to a big public event and feel safe.
It's certainly, I would say, Kelcey, reminiscent of 9/11 when you had a big explosion like what you've seen in Boston, and then you saw the immediate outpouring of support from perfect strangers. So we thank you so much, Kelcey, for your perspective and for your live reports in Boston.
I hope she gets some rest today, because my gosh, she has been going on fumes here lately.
We are going to make a change now with a story that will make you want to hug your children a bit tighter tonight.
It's the story of an infant who died after being left on his stomach too long at a child care center. Workers even noticed something was not right, but did not act until it was too late.
Now the baby's parents want answers. Kelcey Carlson is here with this WRAL investigation. Kelcey.
David and Deborah, this death happened during what is called tummy time. And nearly a year after this preventable tragedy, the criminal investigation with the Army remains open. For the parents, their grief is at a new level, and they are becoming very frustrated.
When Santino Degenhardt, known as Sonny, came into the world, the laughter came easy, and life's little moments were spectacular. For parents Rachel and Jason Degenhardt, that laughter now lives only on video.
Lightning McQueen and his winning team.
Rachel spends Fridays reading to her 4-month-old son at his gravesite from a book with Jason's recorded voice. Jason tirelessly pores over documents to understand how his son suffocated without childcare workers realizing it. It was March 9th, 2012 that Rachel last saw her son smile when she dropped him off at Pope Child Care Center on Fort Bragg. Both Jason and Rachel are soldiers at Bragg, and Jason was on assignment at the time.
I went to work and received a dreadful call. When I saw him, I knew that something bad had happened. I just didn't know what happened to him.
Sonny suffocated on the floor during tummy time, while a child care worker was getting the room ready for the day by cleaning bottles and putting sheets on mattresses.
Just like any other parent, it's begging God to just, you can take my life, just let him live,
He was on life support for 6 days before Jason and Rachel said their final goodbyes on March 15.
The last time I saw him, he was a beautiful, healthy boy.
Added to their painful loss, the frustration about trying to find out what happened to Sonny.
The first time I got any details was when I requested it from the state's investigation, and I received it September, 6 months later.
There is a timeline for what happened because there was a surveillance camera in that room. Keep in mind that Sonny was especially vulnerable on his stomach because he could not roll over on his own yet. At 7:13 a.m., the worker placed him awake on his stomach on a mat. Then at 7:16, she puts a blanket under him. Sonny remains on his stomach on that mat. Then at 7:24, he stops moving. And at 7:32, the worker goes to pick him up and realizes he's not breathing. According to the report, there is plenty of blame to go around for those last 8 crucial minutes. At 7:26, a cook came in, pointed at the child, and said he did not look right, but did not check him out. Then at 7:30, another staff member came in, commented that he looked funny, but did not check him out. Finally, at 7:32, worker Vera Grant, the worker supervising him, began CPR, but only breathing, no chest compressions. Grant was dismissed from the center, and Fort Bragg investigators say the criminal investigation is pending almost a year later. Grant told investigators she followed the same routine each day. Her training was current, and she had 36 years of experience. Fort Bragg child care training for tummy time requires eye contact and a maximum 3 to 5 minutes for infants that cannot roll over yet, a rule that was clearly broken in this case. Bragg spokesman Tom McCullum says the Army recognizes this horrible tragedy and remains committed to learning from it.
There was a lot of extensive training that followed this, and that was all part of our review of, was there something that we could have done that could have prevented it?
Even though this center is on federal property, it also maintains a state license. We've learned through public documents that the state's training on tummy time is not very specific, saying only that infants need to be supervised. Despite Sonny's case, the state has not changed tummy time training or alerted child care providers of his death. An investigator in the medical examiner's office did raise the question as to whether an alert should go out about the danger of blankets. The Degenhardts are frustrated that their son's death was preventable, and they want action and acknowledgement.
Not one person has sent us a card, has called to apologize, has sent us condolences, sympathies,
Has taken
anything.
ownership of this
There's been
incident.
absolutely no response from them to us as soldiers or parents to say we're sorry.
At Sonny's funeral, Jason read a letter from his wife about how they had planned for this baby for years.
4 years of our patience turned into 4 months of pure love. He was alive for exactly 142 days. And unofficially, I think he received 10,000 kisses.
I do love you.
And now together, they hope no child dies this way again.
And I held him as he left for Heaven's Gate.
Vera Grant, the child care worker in charge of Sonny, and her attorney have not responded to our request for an interview. Through public records, we know she was caring for Sonny, a 9-month-old, a 13-month-old, and a 17-month-old that morning. She told an Army investigator she was focused on getting everyone to the table to eat at the same time that morning. The Department of Health and Human Services also would not talk on camera, but released a statement saying in part that it is monitoring training. Again, the state has not made any changes to its tummy time training to better define what supervision is.
Kelcey, it's an amazing story. First off, I'm stunned that this family has not heard from the folks at Fort Bragg. Beyond that, was there any history of problems for this family?
No history of neglect or abuse at this facility prior to Sonny's death. There were a couple of things that were investigated after. There were some changes in management shortly before this time period, and there were some training issues that were noted in prior inspections. I also looked at the Army's investigative report and their interviews, and they talked to a number of people who were involved, and most of them could not recall the specific supervision training for tummy time when asked. We have much more on our website. We have the Army's investigative report, and the family shared a lot of their personal memories with us, and we put their eulogy from the funeral online. Just search Investigates at WRAL.com.
Just heartbreaking, and it all happened so fast. Thank you, Kelcey.
WRAL Investigates. Watch and expect answers.
We have a follow-up to a WRAL investigation into a baby's death at a child care center.
Our story not only put a spotlight on a case of neglect, it also brought attention to the dangers of what's called tummy time. A local nurse who trains child care teachers is using our report in her classes. Kelcey Carlson has the story.
When WRAL aired the story of the tragic death of 4-month-old Sonny Degenhardt,
our fears of suffocation.
Krista Barber was watching.
That they're going to put their face in that.
And she was inspired to make changes.
I think just like any other parent, you know, it's begging God to just, you can take my life, just let him live, you know.
And watching the piece, I thought, I can do something. I can't help these parents, but I can hopefully help that this will never happen to another set of parents again.
Barber trains infant child care providers in Wake County, and she now shows our story to her students to warn them of the dangers of tummy time.
I love you.
Sonny died after he was placed on his stomach for playtime, known as tummy time, at his Fort Bragg Child Care Center. He stopped breathing face down in a blanket without child care workers around him noticing.
They're not going to suffocate on their back.
Krista Barber says the story is a reality check for any teacher who sees it.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I can't imagine. And, you know, it scares me too, taking care of infants every day.
There should be a lot more training. It should be incorporated just like SIDS.
When WRAL looked into state training, we found very specific information about SIDS deaths and how to place infants on their backs to sleep. But the guidelines are not specific on supervision when they're awake during tummy time. In fact, tummy time is just one slide in a PowerPoint presentation for a 2-hour class like this one. And it generically says infants need to be supervised. Krista Barber is using our story to explain how much supervision infants need when they are on their stomachs. And she has the full support of the Wake County group that funds her training.
Training can become routine.
The state did send all trainers like Krista a link to our story after it aired, but no official changes in the guidelines have been made yet.
I believe it will be imprinted on their hearts tonight after they watch this story.
We've heard from other instructors as well. A trainer at Fort Drum in New York wants to use our story in a class, and an instructor at a technical college in Indiana wants to use our story as part of a discussion for a child development class. Kelcey Carlson, WRAL News.
And Kelcey adds the child care worker who was in charge of Sonny Degenhardt did lose her job. No criminal charges were filed. Others who entered the room that morning were retrained. The Degenhardt family also shared a positive update with us. They recently learned 2 of Sonny's heart valves were donated to 2 infants who tonight are doing well.
Well, I'm actually watching the numbers change here on the board behind me. This is what is so fascinating and so interesting about this tool. It's so interactive. So let's go right into the details, you guys. Let's take a look at the popular vote in North Carolina right now. We're getting closer to that 4 million mark. And in 2008, we had about 4 million votes, 4.2 million votes cast in the state of North Carolina. So we're getting a good look at the total. Still, North Carolina very much in play, considered a swing state, and right now too close to call. So let's go right into the details in the state of North Carolina, county by county. You know, a month or so ago, political experts would not have said that North Carolina was going to be in play because it was leaning toward Mitt Romney. Let's take a look at Wake County in particular. All right, 94% of the precincts reporting, leaning right now toward Mitt Romney, but we've learned from the Board of Elections folks there that early voting numbers are still being counted. So we want to keep an eye on Wake County and a couple of other counties as well. So here's Wake here in the middle, Watauga, Pitt, and Wilson, and Forsyth counties. Those are the counties that typically tell us which way the state will lean in a presidential election. Right now we see a variety of colors, and that Wake County right there in the middle, we want to watch this because we're waiting for a good number of votes to still come in, and this may be our predictor as to which way North Carolina is going to be called tonight. Another interesting aspect here to the county by county analysis. Here's Mecklenburg County. Here's Asheville over here. Of course, Boone's up there in Watauga County. And, you know, we've got Forsyth and Guilford counties here. Those are the metropolitan areas. Right now, Wake County is the only red county. So we're continuing to watch the numbers come in. And again, we're getting closer to that 4 million mark. So we'll keep you posted. We're also going to look at the governor's race, congressional seats, the balance of power, the General Assembly, and in Congress as well. So we'll be back on this board in just a bit.
Kelcey Carlson. Talk about determination. Before daylight breaks, she's pounding the pavement. See, marathon runners live by the clock. Long before you're up, she's getting you ready to seize the day. So when news breaks, there's no one on it faster. Literally, she's the non-stop, up-to-the-minute, get it right now, Kelcey Carlson. New and now is just how Kelcey rolls. Monday morning, wake up with WRAL News, 4:30 to 7.